and always have been a very introverted, anxiety-ridden kid. I always imagined the worst of the situation, but this time, it was worth it. My cousin had persuaded me to meet her older boyfriend and his friend at a pizza center. After reaching there, I found out that her older boyfriend was in college and was 20. My cousin and I were 16 at that time, and I got really anxious. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't because my cousin started blackmailing me and would not let me leave. After 30 minutes, our pizza arrived. It was at that I realized that the janitor of the pizza store was staring at me. I stared at the opposite direction and thought to myself, what a creep. And my cousin's boyfriend took out 4 bottles of Coke from his bag and gave one to each one of us. I noticed the seal on my bottle was broken, and I, not thinking much about it, glanced at the janitor, and he was shaking his head vigorously, and I finally understood what he was trying to say. I asked the boyfriend about where he got the bottle from, and they all laughed and said, "Duh, from the counter." By that time, I was so annoyed that I ran to the counter and shouted at them, asking, why would they sell the broken seal bottle to a customer? And before they could say anything, I heard someone shouting, "Hold them and do not let them go." I turned around and saw that the boys and my cousin were trying to storm out of the place, and 2 police officers were holding them down. I got so confused and so lightheaded that I collapsed on the spot. 2 female employees of the store picked me up and put me on a chair, and I made the best decision of my life and called my dad. The whole story that we found out after was that my cousin, her boyfriend, and his best friend tried to drug me so that they could take me to the boyfriend's house, kidnap me, and ask my father for money. Which, to be honest, is the dumbest plan ever. Like, how would they even take me out of the mall, which the pizza center was in, after I was unconscious? Anyway, the janitor heard their master plan when the boys were in the restroom and were discussing the plan, which was another dumb decision, which prompted the janitor to inform this to the store manager and them calling the police. And that is why our order came late. He saved me from being drugged. I don't know much about the kidnapping though, and I thought that he was a creep. My aunt, who is a single mother, tried to disown her daughter, but later kept her and took her to therapy. The guys went to jail for a year and a half, and they were also charged for 6 thefts. And I do not know what happened to them after that, but the only thing I want to tell them is that let's not meet.
I grew up in a small town near a major city, and my mother's 7 brothers and sisters all lived nearby, in other suburbs with their own families. When my parents would travel, they'd leave my 2 older brothers with one aunt, who had boys their age, and leave me with another aunt, who had a boy my age and a girl 3 years older. I was a major tomboy, and that particular male cousin and I got along great, so this setup was fine by me. They lived on a major road much closer to the city than my hometown, so I had explicit instructions never to leave the yard without an adult. One time while staying there, I was about 7 or 8, my older cousin and her friend got permission to walk to the store for ice cream and candy. My aunt refused to let my boy cousin and I go along, and I was pissed. Now is a good time to mention that I was an insolent little brat who couldn't stand to be told no. So I started tailing my cousin and her friend, ducking behind bushes and keeping about a block back. My boy cousin tried to stop me, then very reluctantly went along with it. Since this was a very major road, we had to carefully cross at each intersection, and I eventually lost sight of my older cousin and her friend. As I approached one of the cross streets, a man in a dark blue pickup truck, literally parked in the middle of the side street, got out and walked toward me with his hand out. He said,
"Here, little girl, I'll help you cross."
I was a little scared, but more annoyed that he thought someone my age needed help crossing the street. So I stuck my nose in the air, told him I didn't need help, and started to cross. As I passed him, he grabbed me with one arm and put his other hand over my mouth. He was dragging me towards his truck, and I was whipping my head back and forth trying to free my mouth to scream. I don't remember this personally, but I was told after the fact that my boy cousin, who had been lingering behind the most recent set of bushes, ran out and started hitting and kicking the guy, screaming at the top of his lungs. Since it was broad daylight, the dude apparently decided to cut his losses and let me go. My cousin and I ran all the way back to his house, where I'm told I flung the door open and yelled, "Aunt Betsy, I just got kidnapped." I never even felt all that scared until I saw how serious the police looked, and how they kept asking me the same questions over and over. At that age, I thought the only reason someone would steal a kid was because they couldn't have one of their own. I never imagined he wanted to hurt me until I saw everyone freaking out. My parents cut their trip short, and everyone was super nice to me for a few weeks. It apparently did affect me though, because I had horrible kidnapping dreams for years. They were more sad than scary. The kidnapper would let me say goodbye to my family, and I'd wake up crying and go to sleep on my brother's spare bed in his room. Crazy.
This happened when I was 6 years old. I'm a female, by the way, and I'm 22 now. My family traveled to British Columbia for my aunt's wedding. I was the flower girl, and the wedding took place at a more remote church ground beside the ocean with beautiful docks. The wedding went off with no issues. I tossed some flowers and scratched at my itchy dress. Following the ceremony, everyone came outside to do photos on the docks. I got distracted playing in the dirt while the party moved down the dock without me. My mom, of course, was distracted talking to her sister, and I was usually glued to her side anyway. While I was drawing in the dirt with a stick, a man in a suit approached me. He didn't look dangerous and said he was a cousin or something of my now uncle. He did look familiar to me, but I didn't know why. He said my mom and my auntie had tasked him with watching me while they took photos and stuff, and I didn't know any better, so he took my hand and began walking me not back to the church where the reception would be, but towards the dirt road leading out of the property. Everything went fine and dandy, and we were now almost up to the road where a tree line blocked the exit, and I heard my mom scream, "Don't you fucking touch my daughter!" and turned around to see her running down the docks towards us. Now for context, my mom is a heavier woman, and that is the fastest I have ever seen her run in my life. She looked absolutely foaming at the mouth, enraged. The man squeezed my hand like he was going to make a break for it, but I guess he decided otherwise when the rest of the guests saw my mom screaming and running and started making a beeline for us too. He jumped into the woods beside the dirt road, and nobody recognized him. And when the police came, well, there wasn't much that they could do, because a statement from a scared 6-year-old isn't very useful. The police ended up assigning someone to sit at the only entrance of the property while the reception took place, just in case he came back for whatever reason. And my mom kept me glued to her and left a little early with my brother and I. It dawned on me when we were going back to the hotel that the man was from the hotel. I had seen him looming about at the swimming pool and in the continental breakfast room. Apparently, He was eavesdropping and somehow found out we were going to that wedding. I told my mom, and she was furious. She told the hotel front desk and got me to tell them what he looked like. With the key information that he was wearing a suit, they told us that he had already checked out in a hurry and left. They said they would file a police report with the information he had provided when checking in, and though he paid for the room with cash, so there was no way of knowing if he was using an alias. My mom decided to take us to another hotel on the other side of town that night, and the police never followed up with her, and a few days later, we went back to my home province. And I never understood how much danger I was until I got a little older.
When I was younger, around 11 years old, my mother used to take me to visit her boyfriend, who lived in one of the dodgier parts of town. It was always kind of a long walk, and me being a child, I would complain a lot. It was a very cold day on the day that this incident happened, and I remember on one of the walks to his house, we passed by a bus stop. Waiting at the bus stop was an older man with jet black hair and the creepiest grin you could imagine. I looked at him as we passed, and he smiled at me, revealing that half of his teeth were missing. My mother did not seem to notice this man. As we walked past, he got up and began to follow us. I looked behind and thought it was weird that he wasn't waiting for his bus anymore, but I didn't bother to say anything. We arrived at my mother's boyfriend's house and I forgot about the man. He let me play Resident Evil 4 on his PlayStation 2. I ate a cheeseburger and watched a couple of episodes of Friends. And then my mother said that we were going to the corner store to buy some milk and bread. We all put on our coats and headed around to the corner shop that was just around the corner. When we arrived, my mother and her boyfriend went to buy what they needed and told me to see if I wanted any chocolate or crisps or anything like that. When they turned the corner, I saw the man again staring directly at me, with the same smile he had earlier. I ignored him the best I could, examining the selection of crisps and chocolate they had, and grabbing whatever I wanted, when suddenly I felt two hands underneath my armpits, picking me up. At first I was just confused. I turned around expecting my mother or her boyfriend to be picking me up, but it was that man, and he was already on his way out of the store with me in his grip, basically running out of the store. I screamed obviously and began crying, and that's when my mother screamed also and ran towards me, putting her arm around the man's neck, while her boyfriend grabbed me, and then she punched him, screaming at him all kinds of obscenities. All I remember at this point is the person working in the corner shop, coming to ask what had just happened, and the man ran out of the store. The person working at the store rang the police. When they arrived, I told them what happened and gave a description of the guy, and they said they would look into it. I never heard back from the police, and every time I go back to that part of town, I shiver at the thought at what could have happened if my mother didn't spot him leaving with me.
Hi everybody, it's your creepy older sister here. Thank you so much for listening. You have no idea how I appreciate this. Since the channel is fairly new though, I would like to hear some comments or suggestions from you so that I can continuously improve my coming videos. If you want to know what the name of the channel means, you can check out the description below. If you want to send me stories to read, you can also check out my email and send it there. It's also in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can grow together here, and I'll definitely try my best to upload more each week. Once again, thank you very, very much. And to all the creepy experiences, bad vibes, scary people, and paranormal encounters, together we say to them, Tabi-tabi po.